Today's shiur, Perek Shlishi Hilchos Eiruvin, Halacha Chafei. Shtei chatzeres she'ervu echad derech haPesach shebineim. Two chatzeres, two courtyards next to each other. That there was one Eirov chatzeres derech haPesach shebineim, through a doorway that was between them, or derech hachalein, or whether or through a window. V'nistam haPesach oy hachalein b'Shabbos, and the doorway or the window that would be the gateway, so to speak, between the two chatzeres got closed. Nistam. Kol achas v'achas muteres la'atzma. Each chatzer, each courtyard, is permitted to carry only within it. Why? Hayil v'hutra miksa Shabbos hutra kula. Since the Eirov was there already from the beginning of Shabbos, and since the Eirov, the chatzer was permissible to carry in each chatzer in at least a little bit of Shabbos hutra kula. Same thing when you have two chatzeres, that each one had an Eirov, and there was a wall between them, which was masik, which stopped the two courtyards, and this wall fell in middle of Shabbos. You can only carry the kaisel, the wall created the Eirov. And since now it fell, so what you could do, says the Rambam, you can carry until the Ikar HaKaisel, the foundations of the wall that were there, etc. And then the Rambam concludes, two little boats, that were connected, were tied to each other, the Eiruvin, and you made a Eirov between the two boats, because I guess you lived on the boat, or they were there in the river, in the ocean, the Nifsiku, and then during Shabbos, this kesher between the two boats got stuck, or got cut. Also, you cannot carry from each one. If they became, you can't carry between them, but if they became again connected, you can begin to carry. So it's all one nekuda, etc. I want to share with you two beautiful things. Number one, there's a very nice Eben Ha'azl from Rabbi Zalman Meltzer on this halacha, where Rabbi by the way, the Ravid argues on the Rambam. The Ravid doesn't understand why the Rambam holds that you need the heter of hutra, kiven hutra. Why don't you just say that since it was already there from the beginning of Shabbos, you can carry the whole Shabbos. And another question that Ravid seems to be asking is, why does the Rambam have to tell us by nifsek ha-mechitza or nifsek or nistam ha-kaisel ha-chalein that you can carry in the mechitza, in the original chatzar, in the original courtyard? That you don't need the heter of both courtyards. In the original courtyard where you are, you could have carried even without an Eiruvin, because the whole point over here was two chatzeres came together. In any case, let me just share with you two nice points, slightly different actually, but two nice points on this Rambam and Ravid. So the Ibn Azul brings down that again, the question that seems to be asked, and the Maggid Mishnah asks this: why does the Rambam tell us that you can carry in the original chatzar where the person is, and he can? I understand you can't carry between chatzeres, between courtyards, but you should be able to carry in the chatzar itself. So the Maggid Mishnah answers, which seems to be a bit of a deichik, that the Rambam is referring to, you need to carry something from the second chatzar into the original chatzar. And the other Mefarshim ask on this. That therefore the Rambam says that the heter is, why could you carry something from the second chatzar to the first chatzar, even though nistam ha'chalein and nistam ha'kaisel, because kiven the hutra, since it was permitted, if it wouldn't be for the heter of kiven the hutra, you wouldn't be able to carry. So the Ibn Azul asks the question, why do we need this whole svara of kivin hutra? We have a klal. We know that once there's an Eirov in the beginning of Shabbos, of Ben Hashmoshes, that Eirov is good for the whole Shabbos. So why does the Rambam in general need to have this chiddush, this klal, which is of course based on the Gemara? Why does the Rambam need to paskin that kivin the hutra? Says the Ibn Azul like this: we can understand the machlekes between the Rambam and the Ravid by understanding the svara, by understanding the logic. What is in general the permissibility of an Eirov? We can understand the permissibility of creating an Eirov chatzeres between an Eirov of many different courtyards. We can understand it in two ways. On the one hand, we can understand that after the various courtyards joined into one Eirov, let's say through food. So we could say that the lumdis or the logic behind this is the various courtyards all become one courtyard, and it's as if all the people in the various courtyards are partners in all of the courtyards. Before Shabbos, they were separate courtyards, separate ownership. Now, through the Eirov, they became all one owner, and all the people living there, and it becomes one chatzar. So therefore, just like if a person puts his piece of bread in a certain place, it becomes a shutaf. The same thing. Somebody who lives in a certain courtyard, he is a shutaf. He's a partner in the second courtyard. So it's all one thing. And that's one way of looking at it. There's a common ownership. The Eirov creates a common ownership. A second way to look at the permissibility of Eirov Chatzeres, says the Ibn Azul, is because it's not that they're all partners. Because we know that a important component, and the Rambam talks about this in the beginning of Hilchos Eiruvin, an important component in Eirov Chatzeres is that everybody, it's as if they live in one place. It's as if they're considered that they're living in the place where the Eirov is, the makam hanachas Eirov, because makam pita goyim, the place where the food is, the place where where the meal is, the place where the food is, that causes a commonality, so to speak, and therefore the fact that it says the Ibn Azul a big chiddush. So why can I carry from all the other courtyards if I'm only living in the courtyard where the food is? Says the Ibn Azul, interesting svara, because we know there's a concept that where there's other people living in a chatzar, that's not that conflicts with another chatzar. So by putting all the food in one chatzar, all the people from the other chatzeres, all the people from the other courtyards are as if there's nobody living there. And if there's nobody living there, so it's not mevatel the rishus. It's not mevatel the rishus. I can carry everywhere else. Those are two svaras that the Ibn Azul says why Eirov Chatzeres could be permissible. Says the Ibn Azul. So if you take the second svara that we just said, that by where the food is, it's as if everybody is living in the place of the pita, of the bread, of where the Eirov is, and therefore all the other chatzeres are lacking diurim, are lacking people who live there. So therefore they're not able to be mevatel for other people. Says the Ibn Azul. So therefore, we could say that as long as this applies, it's good. But if something happens to the connectability to the two chatzeres, when nistam pesach b'Shabbos, when the doorway or the hall or the window became closed, and therefore that other chatzer that we just said before is included. That other chatzer is separate from the place of the Eirov. So therefore, you can't already say that his dira is in the place of the food, because there's a blockage, so to speak. So there's a blockage. So he reverts to his chatzer. So therefore, if there's diurim, if there's people living there, it's already mevatel to the other diurim. So this is the machlekes between the Rambam and the Ravid, whether we say that what's the svara of Eirov Chatzeres, whether it's that they're all shutfim or whether there's no diurim, and therefore the only way that we would be permitted to carry from one chatzor to another is not the etzem inyan of Eirov, where that we as we say, if it's already there ben hashmashitz, the Eirov is good in any case. That doesn't apply anymore because there's no walkway between the two chatzeres. So the only heter we have is kiven shehutra hutra. Just a nice svara of how we how we look at the heter of Eirov chatzeres. How we look at the heter of what exactly does an Eirov chatzeres accomplish by everybody putting their food in one place. Do we say that it's everybody should from there, or do we say that everybody has a dira there and mainly it's not mevatel the other diras? I thought it's a nice thought to go with the Rambams that we've been learning lately. So let's talk about similar concept, and I believe it's a little bit different. As we know, there are many different types of Eirov. There is Eirov chatzeres, which allows people in various courtyards to carry in the common areas, at least, or in their own courtyards. It's common today in apartment buildings, in courtyard apartment buildings, maybe even in the country, with bungalows, etc. Then we know the famous, of course, we have, I think we're going to learn it in tomorrow's shiur, the Eirov Tchumim, where a person takes food and he wants to walk more than 2,000 amas. He puts the Eirov Tchumim, he puts the food 2,000 amas away, so now he could walk another 2,000 amas. And then we have, of course, an Eirov Tafshil. So in today's Rambam, as we mentioned, Halacha, we talk about Eirov Chatzeres, and the Rambam says again that if you have two Chatzeres or two sinners that are connected and something happens to this connection in the middle of Shabbos, the only way that the Rambam says we can do something is because Kivan Shehutra Hutra, and Hutra Mitzvah Shabbos, but only in the Iker Chatzar. You can't take from one Chatzar to another. You can carry in the Iker Chatzar. So again, the commentaries ask, why does, and this is probably the Asaga Sarayvik, why does the Rambam even to tell us this? It's obvious that you can carry in the Chatzar itself. It says there's a very nice sefer called Even Yisrael. It's on the Rambam. And he says like this. He says that there's a major difference, and it's a nice word that I wanted to share. There's a major difference in concept, in Yesod Din, in the fundamental understanding between Eirov Tchumim and Eirov Chatzeres. Even though, and we know the famous, you'll see tomorrow at length, that if a person puts his Eirov on Ben Hashmashis, Eirov Tchumim, and something happens to the Eirov during Ben Hashmashis, so let's even say a Friday night, doesn't matter. Since the Eirov was there on Ben Hashmashis, it's a good Eirov for the whole Shabbos. So the question becomes right away, why don't we say the same concept by Eirov Chatzeres? Why does that since there was an Eirov in the beginning of Shabbos, there was an Eirov Chatzeres, there was food, even though, or there was a wall between them, etc. Even though something happened to that Eirov later on Shabbos, why don't we say the same concept that that since there was an Eirov in the beginning of Shabbos, it's good? Why do we need the heter of Kiven Shehutra Hutra? Says the Even Yisrael something very beautiful. He says, Eirov Chatzeres, Eirov Tchumim, the Yesod Din is Kinyan Shvisa. We have to acquire a place that we're going to be there. We have to in our mind say that tomorrow during the day sometimes we are going to go to that area and have some food. So by doing this, by being Kinyan Shvisa before Shabbos, we have allowed ourselves, so to speak, that our Iker place is going to be, or one of our places is going to be 2,000 amas away, and then from there we can go another 2,000 amas. So the Iker is the concept of Kinyan Shvisa. And Iker, when is Kinyan Shvisa? When can we acquire? When can we do this Kinyan? Only before Shabbos. You cannot be Kinyan Shvisa after Shabbos begins, because the Gemara says that clear in Beitza Yud Zayin. So therefore, even though it was burnt, since the Kinyan Shvisa was done before Shabbos began, so the chalais of the Eirov Tchumim is still there, regardless of what happens to it. How, on the other hand, Eirov Chatzeres is a whole different concept. Eirov Chatzeres, the Yesod Din, is not because of Kinyan Shvisa. The Yesod Din is that he lives there. That he lives there, and just like everybody has like we said before, it has an equal, so to speak, yad and equal access to that place. So therefore, it's as if they live there. So now it doesn't matter where the Eirov was bein hashmoshes. That's not the kavanah. The ikar is, where are they going to live on Shabbos? And we know a person could live wherever he wants. He can live here, he can live there. We say that if he had food there, he's probably going to live there. But in the case where something happened to the access, so a person doesn't have to live in a certain place just because he decides to sleep somewhere Friday night. Doesn't mean he has to sleep there. He can go somewhere else. And therefore, since the access is gone, so if it wouldn't be for the heter of kivin shehutra hutra on Eirov Tchumim, we wouldn't be able to say that's his dira, because that dira doesn't apply anymore. The concept of the Eirov putting being there on bein hashmoshes doesn't apply anymore. It's not a heter like it is by Eirov Tchumim that the kinyan was done already. Over there, the Eirov was accomplished that we say that's where he's going to live. But if there's a problem in living, if it wouldn't be for the concept hutra, which is the chiddush in the Gemara, says the Rambam, we couldn't use it, and that's what the Rabbi argues. Thank you.